All right, diving right in, folks. We love digging into fascinating sources you send our way.
Absolutely.
And today we're taking on the Reddit post that really caught my eye. It all starts with this line: surround yourself with those who know how to suffer well.
Okay.
And I know, sounds a bit heavy maybe,
Yeah,
but trust me, it gets really, really interesting.
I bet.
Now, to help us unpack all of this, we have our expert,
Hi.
someone who's a master at connecting the dots and adding some serious perspective.
Well, it is. It is a bit of a loaded phrase when you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah,
But I think it does speak to a reality. I mean, nobody gets through life without facing some sort of hardship.
right.
The question is not if, it's really how. How are you going to handle these things?
Exactly. And the original poster, they went on to say, no one is getting out of life unscathed. Betrayal, abandonment, grief, we're each going to get hit with at least one of these one way or another. So is this just like pessimism, or is it actually a realistic place to start from? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm going to say more realistic.
Okay.
It's not about like dwelling on the negative. I think it's more about like recognizing, understanding that life has suffering built in. It's going to happen.
Yep.
And if that's the case, it seems like there are better and worse ways to go through it, right?
Right.
And that's where this idea of suffering well comes in. And I think that's where it looks really, really interesting.
Yeah. Whereas, like, how do you do that?
Right.
So the post, it puts a lot of emphasis on surrounding yourself with people who know how to get back up gracefully after being beaten by life.
Okay.
And a top comment added to that, saying these people are resilient, they regulate their emotions, and they don't stay stuck in victim mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, here's the thing. The cynic in me wonders, do these people even exist? Or is this just like a Reddit myth?
Oh, no, they exist.
Okay, good.
They're out there. They're not mythical creatures or anything.
Okay,
They're just people who have, really developed some very, very specific skills and a mindset that allows them to deal with difficult things, a lot better than the rest of us, frankly. Take emotional regulation, for example.
right.
That's not about suppressing your emotions.
Oh, good.
Not at all.
Okay,
It's about learning to process them in a way that's healthy, in a way that helps you, basically.
so not having a meltdown every time my coffee order is wrong.
Exactly.
Asking for a friend.
That's exactly what I mean. It's about recognizing that difficult emotions are normal.
Okay, yeah,
They're going to happen. We're humans. It's
Mhm.
just part of the deal.
yeah.
But you have choices in how you respond to them.
Okay.
And I think surrounding yourselves with people who model that for you,
hmm
really, really beneficial, because it shows you that it is possible to stay grounded when things get tough, to not fall apart.
That makes a lot of sense. There's also a comment from someone named Shiroi Tora that I thought was especially interesting.
Okay.
They cautioned against confusing um, grace with emotional suppression and made the point that true resilience comes from practice, experience, and reflection, not just putting on, a brave face.
Absolutely. I mean, we have to separate the two.
Right.
True strength is not about pretending your struggles don't exist. It's about building the capacity to acknowledge them
Right.
and to learn from them and ultimately to move forward in a way that's healthy.
Yeah. And another commenter even suggests that constantly suppressing your emotions can actually be harmful in the long run. Like it can lead to unhealthy coping mechanisms or even burnout. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. Eventually, it's going to pop back up,
Yeah,
possibly in a messy explosion of feelings.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It's a good one because it really does highlight how important it is to find healthy ways to process your emotions.
Yeah,
That's the key. And, that's really where the people you choose to spend your time with really make a difference.
right.
I mean, you can have people that validate you, support you, and help you through those rough emotional times.
Right.
Or you can have the opposite, people who contribute to those unhealthy patterns and make it harder to be healthy.
Yeah. And speaking of unhealthy patterns, one commenter took a totally different approach. They said, and I quote, "Don't surround yourself with anyone. Fuck this stupid game of life." Harsh. Wow. But honestly,
Yeah.
I can't say I haven't felt that way myself sometimes. So, what are your thoughts on this, like the lone wolf approach to life?
I get it. I get why someone would feel that way, especially if they've been hurt, if they've been through a lot.
Right.
But I think when you step back and look at it, this approach kind of goes against how we're wired as humans.
Okay.
We're social creatures. We need each other. We're meant to belong. And even when you're going through tough times, having supportive relationships, it can ground you. It can give you perspective. It can help you validate what you're going through. It's important.
So even if we're, hypothetically surrounded by people who are really good at this whole suffering well thing,
Yeah.
we still need to put in the work ourselves
Yeah.
to develop those same skills and mind.
Exactly. It's not about outsourcing your emotional well-being.
Okay.
It's about creating an environment where that growth can happen, where you can build your own resilience.
I like that.
Yeah, it's like gardening, I guess. I mean, you can plant the best seeds in the world,
Right.
but if the soil's no good
Yeah.
and they don't get enough sun,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. They're not going to thrive. You need that good foundation.
So it's about creating the right conditions for ourselves and those around us
Exactly.
to, grow and blossom even when things get tough.
Exactly. You got it.
I love that. All right. So before we jump into specific strategies for cultivating resilience and all of that,
Okay.
I want to touch on a point that Most Bike 1618 made because I thought it was really important.
Okay.
They warned about mistaking stoicism or forced positivity for genuine resilience,
Mm-hmm.
saying some people might exploit others to regulate their own emotions, all while claiming to have, learned all their lessons.
Right.
Which, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So how do we tell the difference between someone who's truly strong and someone who's just putting up a front?
That's such a good question. How can we tell?
Right. What are some red flags that we should be looking out for?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones is, are they open to being vulnerable?
Okay.
Do they acknowledge their own struggles? Or are they constantly deflecting, minimizing, pretending everything is fine?
So if someone's always putting on a perfect front, it could be a sign that they're not really dealing with their emotions in a healthy way.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And it also makes it hard to connect with them on a deeper level, you know?
Yeah.
True strength isn't about never feeling pain or pretending you never have weaknesses. It's about having the courage to be authentic, even when it's hard.
Yeah.
Even when it's uncomfortable, and it's about seeking support when you need it, not just trying to white-knuckle it through life alone.
I love that. It reminds me of that saying, vulnerability is the birthplace of connection and the path to healing.
It's so true.
And, making the choice to surround yourself with people who embrace that, it can be so powerful.
Absolutely. It can literally change your life. It creates the space where you can just be yourself. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to put on a show. You can be your authentic self without judgment.
Right. Okay, so before we wrap up this part of the conversation, I want to bring up another comment that I think adds a really interesting layer to all of this.
Okay.
Common Preen 6589, they said, be careful that your significant other or life partner isn't the one attracting all those life challenges. Some people are just a magnet. So, what do you make of that?
Oh, that's a really interesting point. And it gets into this really complex dynamic between what we're responsible for in life and what's just, circumstance, fate, whatever you want to call it. It's a tricky one.
Right.
While it's really tempting to just label some people as unlucky, and be done with it,
Yeah.
I do think it's more nuanced than that.
So you're saying it's not just bad luck?
Not necessarily. I mean, while we definitely can't control everything that happens to us, I think our energy, the choices we make, and even just our ingrained patterns of behavior, all of that can really influence the experiences that we attract.
Okay, so if you're constantly, expecting the worst,
Yeah,
you could actually be attracting it.
exactly. It's like you're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Whoa.
Yeah, what we believe about ourselves and the world, it can really, truly shape our reality. It's powerful.
That is a little unsettling, if I'm being honest. What if I'm bringing all this drama into my life without even realizing it?
It's a fair question.
Yeah.
But it's not about blaming yourself.
Okay, good.
It's about becoming aware of those patterns, aware of those deep down beliefs that are driving everything. Once you see them, you can make conscious choices that get you where you actually want to be.
So if someone, has that light bulb moment, realizes they might be, a drama magnet,
Yeah.
what can they do about it?
The best place to start is always with yourself.
Okay.
Ask yourself, what are my core beliefs about myself, about the world, about how things work? What are the patterns I keep repeating in my relationships? What am I afraid of? Really get to know yourself deeply.
And once you've kind of, identified those things,
Yeah.
those patterns, the beliefs, what's next?
Well, then it's about challenging them.
Okay.
Those limiting beliefs that are holding you back. You have to consciously choose to think differently, act differently, and even choose to be around different people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I know it sounds like a lot.
Yeah,
But the truth is, it's an ongoing process. It takes effort.
right.
But, if you can become more aware of yourself and you're willing to put in the work, it's possible to really change those patterns
Yeah.
and ultimately attract more of what you want in your life.
So bringing it all in around to, surrounding ourselves with those who suffer well.
Right.
It sounds like we also need to be mindful of our own energy. Like, are we the ones bringing the drama? What are we contributing to the situation?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It's not a one-way street. The people we choose to be around influence us, absolutely, but we also influence them.
It goes both ways.
Exactly. And I think if we can focus on building self-awareness and resilience and taking responsibility for our choices, then we can create this amazing, supportive, empowering environment for everyone.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to dive even deeper into this idea that some people might actually be magnets for life challenges. Stay with us.
It's going to be good.
Okay, so we're back and ready to go even deeper into this whole suffering well thing.
Yeah, let's do it.
As we were talking, it kind of hit me that there's this assumption in all of this, like that everyone defines suffering or even grace the same way. But isn't that kind of a leap?
That's a great point. You're right. What one person sees as suffering well, another might see as just bottling it up or even denial.
Exactly. It's so subjective, right?
Totally. Like what looks like resilience to me might seem completely different to you. It depends on your experiences, your culture, your values, all of that.
So how do we even navigate that? Like, if it's all relative, how can we tell who's actually suffering well without judging them based on our own, ideas?
Well, I think that's where self-awareness comes in and a willingness to question your own assumptions
Okay.
instead of looking at how someone's acting on the surface.
Right.
Try to understand what's driving them. What are their values? What's motivating their response to whatever they're going through?
So it's less about how they seem to be handling things and more about understanding their internal process.
Exactly. We have to move beyond those snap judgments and really try to listen, be empathetic.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Everyone's journey is different. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to this.
It reminds me of a comment from Wonderful Formal 804. They said they'd completely transcended suffering through conscious living.
Okay.
Like, I never went through any of that hell. I never will because I live my life consciously. Part of me admires that optimism. But another part is like, is that even possible? To just bypass suffering altogether?
I appreciate the sentiment for sure. I think it's amazing to strive for conscious living. It can definitely help you make better choices, be more self-aware.
Yeah,
But I do think it's important to take claims like that with a grain of salt.
right.
Conscious living doesn't make you immune to life. It just doesn't.
Yeah, it's like saying I meditate every day, so I'm never going to get sick.
Exactly. You can do everything right, and life's still going to throw curveballs. It's going to happen.
And I think it's almost dangerous to tell people they can completely avoid suffering.
Yeah, it sets unrealistic expectations, and when those tough times inevitably do come, people can feel ashamed, like they're not doing it right.
Totally. It's like that whole toxic positivity thing where you have to pretend to be happy all the time, even when you're not.
Exactly. It's so important to acknowledge all of your emotions, even the tough ones.
Right.
Because if you deny them or try to suppress them, they're just going to come back even stronger later on.
This whole conversation is making me think about self-compassion. Like, we have to be kind to ourselves, especially when we're struggling.
Absolutely. Self-compassion is so important for building resilience. They allows you to acknowledge your pain without judging yourself.
Yeah.
Like you would offer that same kindness to a good friend, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so another commenter, Pseudolawgiver, they raised an interesting point about how hard it can be to spot those who suffer well.
Okay.
They said, and I quote, "People who have never suffered will insist they are good at suffering." So how do we tell the difference between someone who's really resilient and someone who's just, all talk?
It's a great question. It's easy to talk about resilience, but it's different when you're actually facing it.
Yeah.
I think ultimately they come down to actions.
Okay.
Look at how they've actually handled challenges in the past. Have they grown from those experiences, learned something, adapted, or do they tend to blame others, make excuses, keep making the same mistakes over and over?
Those are some good questions to ask about ourselves, too, not just other people.
Exactly. It's about holding yourself accountable and recognizing that resilience is not something you're born with. It's a skill you build over time through practice and self-awareness.
I love that. Okay, there's a comment from Not an IRMI that really captures what true support looks like.
Okay.
They talk about finding a partner who will watch over you when you're vulnerable, help rebuild you if you get shattered, and make you a better person.
Wow. That's powerful.
Right.
It really highlights how important it is to have that mutual care, encouragement, and support in a relationship to help each other grow.
It's making me think about all the different ways we can show up for each other when times are tough. It's not always about fixing things or having all the answers.
Right.
Sometimes it's just about listening, being there for them, letting them know they're not alone.
You're so right. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just hold space for someone. Let them be themselves without judgment.
This whole conversation has been so eye-opening. It really makes me appreciate the power of choosing your circle carefully.
It makes a huge difference.
But it's also a good reminder that it's not just about who we surround ourselves with. It's also about how we show up for ourselves and others.
It's about building resilience inside and out, creating a support system that helps everyone thrive and helps us all navigate life's ups and downs with more awareness and compassion.
I love that. Okay, before we wrap up, I want to touch on one last comment that I think adds a whole new layer to this whole discussion. Common Prune 6589 said, "Be careful that your significant other or life partner isn't the one attracting all those life challenges. Some people are just a magnet." So what are your thoughts on that? Like, are some people just destined for drama?
It's definitely an interesting idea, and it gets into this complex interplay between personal responsibility and those things that are just outside of our control. It's tempting to just say some people are unlucky and leave it at that, but I think it's deeper than that.
So it's not just bad luck.
Not always. I mean, we can't control everything that happens to us, that's for sure. But our energy, our choices, even our subconscious patterns, they can definitely influence the kinds of experiences we attract.
So like, if you're always expecting the worst, you might actually be attracting it.
Exactly. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. What you believe about yourself and the world, it can really shape your reality.
Whoa, that's pretty powerful.
It is. It can be unsettling to think about, but it's not about blaming yourself. It's about awareness. Once you see those patterns, those beliefs that are driving everything, you can start to make different choices.
So if someone realizes they might be a drama magnet, what can they do about it?
Start by looking inward. Ask yourself, what are my core beliefs? About myself, about the world, about how things work, what patterns keep popping up in my relationships, what am I afraid of? It's up about getting to know yourself deeply and honestly.
And once you've identified those things, those patterns and beliefs, what's next?
Then it's about challenging them, those limiting beliefs that are holding you back, consciously choosing to think differently, act differently, even choose different people to be around. It's a journey, it takes effort, but with awareness and willingness, you can shift those patterns and start attracting more of what you want in life.
So bringing it all back to surrounding ourselves with those who suffer well, it sounds like we also need to be mindful of our own energy, right? Like, are we the ones bringing the drama? What are we contributing to the situation?
Absolutely. It's a two-way street. The people we choose to be around influence us, but we also influence them. If we can work on our own self-awareness, our resilience, and take responsibility for our choices, we can create a much more supportive and empowering environment for everyone.
This deep dive has been amazing. There's so much to think about, so much to apply to our own lives, from recognizing true resilience to understanding how our choices and energy can shape our experiences. It's all about growth and awareness.
And remember, it's an ongoing journey. There's no finish line, just a constant evolution towards greater awareness, compassion, and connection.
Beautifully said. And for our listeners, keep exploring these ideas, share your thoughts with us, and remember, you're not alone on this journey. We're all in this together.
Absolutely.
And if you're enjoying these deep dives, be sure to subscribe to Voices of the Soul wherever you get your podcasts.
And don't forget to check out Shauna's YouTube channel, Shauna Polich, for more inspiring content and practical guidance.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of exploration and discovery. Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep choosing your circle wisely. Okay, so before the break, we were talking about, how to recognize genuine resilience and really leaning into self-compassion.
Right, and how those tie into this idea of who do you want around you? Who are you choosing to let into your circle, especially when things get tough?
Right. But it occurs to me, we haven't really talked about the other side of that.
Oh, interesting. What do you mean?
Like, what about those people who always seem to be surrounded by drama?
Okay, yeah.
Or they're constantly finding themselves in the middle of chaos.
Right, right.
Earlier, we mentioned that comment from Common Prune 6589 about some people being magnets for life's challenges. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's a really fascinating idea. It makes you think, right? Like, how much control do we actually have over what happens to us?
Right.
Versus, are some things just kind of fated?
Yeah, is it just bad luck?
I think it's more complicated than that.
Okay.
While, yes, there are things we can't control, I do think our energy plays a role.
Okay.
The choices we make, even our deep-seated patterns of behavior,
Yeah.
all of that can influence what we experience.
So you're saying it's not just random chance.
Not always. I mean, if you're constantly expecting the worst, approaching everything from a place of fear or negativity, you might actually be drawing those experiences to you.
So, like, if you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop, it's more likely to happen.
Exactly. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. What you believe about yourself and the world, it really can shape your reality.
Whoa, that's kind of a scary thought. Like, what if I'm unintentionally creating drama in my life?
It's a valid concern, but it's not about blame.
Okay, good.
It's about awareness. Once you see those patterns, those beliefs that are driving your actions, you can make conscious choices to change them.
So, for someone who has that realization that maybe they are a drama magnet, what can they do?
Start by looking inward. What are your core beliefs about yourself, about the world, about how relationships work? What patterns keep repeating in your life? And what are you truly afraid of?
And once you've, identified those things, those patterns, those beliefs, what's the next step?
To challenge them, those limiting beliefs that are holding you back, make the choice to think differently, act differently, and even choose different people to be around.
So it's like a complete overhaul.
It can feel that way, yeah, but it's a process, an ongoing journey. With awareness and effort, you can really shift those patterns and attract more of what you want, more of what you deserve.
So bringing back to this idea of surrounding yourself with those who suffer well, it sounds like we also need to be mindful of our own energy. Are we bringing the drama? What are we contributing to the situation?
Absolutely. The people we choose to be around influence us, but we also influence them. It's a two-way street. If we can each work on our own self-awareness, resilience, and taking responsibility for our choices, we can create a more supportive and empowering environment for everyone.
This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive. We've covered so much. Recognizing true resilience, understanding how our choices can shape our reality, and the importance of choosing our circle wisely. It's all connected.
It really is. It's an ongoing journey of growth and self-discovery, and it's a reminder that we're not alone in this.
Absolutely. So for all of our listeners out there, keep exploring these ideas, share your thoughts with us, and remember, we're all in this together.
I love that.
If you're loving these deep dives, don't forget to subscribe to Voices of the Soul wherever you listen to podcasts.
And for more inspiring content, be sure to check out Sharna's YouTube channel, Shauna Polage. You won't regret it.
Thanks for joining us on this journey of exploration and discovery. Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep choosing your circle wisely.